your host for our Netcampus Fireside Chat. We have a very interesting Fireside Chat today, and as usual, we invite you to have these discussions. Today, we are going to be talking about learning trends in the technology space, past, present, and future. I know we are in a technology bubble, the AI bubble as we call it, and that is affecting everything that we do. And the learning space is exactly the same. We are being affected by this movement of technology. Our technology fireside chat is really meant to update you and demystify technology, but also tell you about the trends, the dynamics, and everything that is happening in the technology space. So as usual, I've invited 3 of our experts in the topic that we're going to be dealing with today. They are here, they've been here for a very long time. They know the space backwards, and I know they're going to be sharing some interesting pearls of wisdom. So sit, come closer and listen. But also don't forget to share, to like, and to subscribe to Netcampus Info 2267. As usual, I'm happy to receive them. One of them flew all the way from Cape Town to be with us because we needed him to be here. He didn't want to be here, but you know, it comes with the territory. If you're an expert, you're an expert. We fly you all the way to be with us. So, these are my 3 lovely colleagues. They are in the consulting business of Netcampus, and they make sure that our clients are well taken care of. And to start off with, I'll allow them to introduce themselves.
So yes, thanks to Bogo. My name is Peter Nel. I head up the Net Consulting business, and we're really looking forward to this conversation today.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me here, Tebogo. My name is Tsepiso Kanyago. I head up the online assessment as well as the learner management system within Netcampus Group.
Great.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having us, Tebogo. My name's Lemo. So luckily you guys don't have to read it on the screen because my colleagues would agree that it's a rather difficult name to say. But I help look after our content development department as well as our digital adoption solutions.
Yeah. I was hoping, Peter, that you are going to tell us about, when did you start in this business? Me and you are a bit old. We're fossils in this room. But you've earned your stripes. You've been in the space, I don't know, that's 30 years. I don't want to make you feel very old. But it attests to the fact that you've been around. You've seen trends. I'm sure you were around when we had floppy disks and MS-DOS and all of those things. So tell us, what has been your experience in terms of how the industry and the sector has moved, from very slow to a very fast-paced technology space right now.
Yeah, thank you, Tebogo. To be honest, as I joined the IT space and specifically learning, I think in about 1996 already. And when we look at learning trends, not just technology trends, I worked for the first company that ever rolled out a different learning mechanism than classroom-based learning. And that was in those days still called CBT, or computer-based learning.
Yes.
Which really meant that you would give, luckily not on floppy disks, but on a little hard disk, we gave students the learning material, and then they copied that onto their machines. And we thought it was excellent in the early 1990s, or in the late 1990s, as a learning mechanism. And then spending time with also working for a client implied that you think about learning differently. You think about how do you really enable your staff members aligned to business requirements. So throughout the last 29 odd years, I've been heavily involved in looking at how do you really enable people.
Yes.
And not do training, but learning enablement. And then the rest, from a technology perspective, been through assessments that Tsepiso will really be able to elaborate a lot more on, been through the content dev that Lemoore will be able to expand a lot more on, and where we are right now. And you alluded to this earlier, AI is touching everything, but ultimately it's also got to touch business and not just personal productivity.
Yeah, well, I was hoping your passion is not going to come through so early in the interview, but clearly you're very passionate about this space. When we talk later on, I want you to touch on also on training versus learning. But we'll come back to you. Tepi?
With me, I think, Deboho, thank you for that question. It's a very interesting one. I have been in the industry for more than 15 years. And when I started, I worked...
And you're so small.
Yes. And when I started, I worked with multiple universities. And what I realized is that when it comes to e-assessment, the universities at that time, they were using CBTs. They still refer them as CBTs, where students needed to be in the university, in the campus, to actually do their exam. But life has changed now, and technology, thank you to technology, now students are able to take assessments from a comfort of their own home. And we also make sure that in terms of the safety measures that we put in place when it comes to that. It happens that now we have the AI proctoring as part of the system. Instead of having that old invigilator that walks into the CBT labs, now the students can sit in the comfort of their own home. They have AI proctoring. What does that do? It monitors the eye movement. It does the 360 rotation to ensure and mitigate cheating.
Yeah, scary.
Very scary. Technology has moved.
I'm telling you. Yeah, no, definitely. I think because those are some of the services that we provide. Later on we will talk about it, and what are the benefits. Correct. I don't think we can stand against it and say we don't want to do that, because all the other competitors are actually embracing technology. Lemoore.
So for me, I've been in the learning and development space for about 9 years now. I think I am the baby in the group. But it has been quite some time, and we have experienced different learning trends. And if I think back to when we started out with just training material, and specifically let's talk more on the system space. I remember we would have what they call step action tables, and you have this screenshot that they plug onto a Word document, and it gives you step 1, you need to click on home, or step 2, you need to click here. So I think from when I started out with learning really lived in these PDFs and these PowerPoints. But if you look at today where we are, that learning really sits in the flow of work, and we'll get into some of the details. Let me not nerd out early.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really manual intensive back in the day. Learning used to sit outside of these platforms. So we had to stop work, go back, let me remember what happened in training, let me have a look at a manual. But now with, like we're all talking about, AI brings that learning into these platforms and into that flow of work. So I think that for me was the biggest shift, seeing that we had these manual processes and the way we needed to learn, to it being rather quick.
Yeah.
With the rise of AI agents. I think a lot of organizations now are investing in their own GPTs, where they fill that with their
Oh, wait.
yeah.
You're flooding our think with AI agents and all sorts of things. We're gonna ask that you also explain as you go along.
Yeah.
But I'm also interested in you as a person. I know in your very short space of time in this industry, you've grown so much.
Yeah.
Starting as an intern and where you are now. The fact that there's been so much changes is very interesting to me. It means, technology has changed so quickly. But yeah, maybe you can also touch on that. As an intern, you came in doing what, and where are you now, and so on.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's an interesting journey, especially if you look at the age that we in. So over the course of those 9 years, I've taken on different roles, and of course, starting off as in a learnership. I did a learnership on business analysis, and I think at that point is where you learn the intensive manuals, because you had this portfolio of evidence that you had to go through when you took an assessment, and Tepiso can attest to this, you had to write physically on a piece of paper what your answers were. But I really started off in that learnership space, and it was more around QA work. You know, they don't automatically trust you with the actual work. So you're looking at what some of these consultants are doing in the space, and you're learning from them, sort of brushing off of the knowledge they had. And quickly, because of, and I must admit that we were 3 interns, and it was very competitive, you know, because all of the guys were very tech savvy, and that pushed us to learn. And all 3 of those gentlemen, actually, we grew at the same pace. So we went from learners to consultants in a space of a year.
Wow.
So I was working as now a consultant, and we had interns QAing our work.
Yeah.
So that shift really came quickly. And then within another year, they promoted us to project managing different clients.
Mm-hmm.
Now we were looking after customers across the EMEA region, the NAMA region. So we were exposed outside of Africa. So now you took your technical knowledge and you had to build relationships with clients. You had to understand what their problems were, how the technology we offer solves those problems. And then if I fast forward to today, you know, it's really, well, maybe just a reflection. You think back and you're like, okay, now I get to look after, or help look after an entire department that's made up of different facilitators, instructional designers.
Yeah.
So over that span of 9 years, yeah, I would say 10x probably.
Rise.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting, and the reason I wanted you to zoom into that is that there's a lot of people who'd be watching this podcast, and you know, it's important that we showcase the fact that this is possible, and you've grown so much. It's not like it's out there. It can happen.
Yeah.
If you were able to service clients in Neymar, you said, I don't know where Neymar is, but you know, another kid looking at you will know that if I focus, if I listen, if I do what I'm told, it can happen for me too.
Yeah,
Great.
definitely.
If I can just add that to all the youngsters out there that might watch this podcast, it is most certainly possible, and Lemur is an example. It comes with hard work, and it also comes with the fact that you keep on asking.
Yes.
And that is probably the most important message that a person of my age can have for young people is keep on asking. The people that are our age or my age, the Borgo, will really
I'm not
be
your
there to
age.
guide. So that's why I corrected myself here. But you got to make use of the opportunities, and to be honest, Lemur and the guys that he spoke about, we started invoicing their time out after 3 months on after starting a learnership.
Beautiful.
So it is most certainly possible for young people out there to become highly successful.
Yeah, beautiful.
And yes, it is possible with the right attitude.
Yes.
To the youngsters out there, if you have the right attitude, right mindset, and always willing to learn, then you know your career flows in a period of time. If you listen to Lamore, he said a lot of things in a space of time, like a short space of time, and you realize that, you know what, it is possible out there. It doesn't stop with Lamore, but then it continues with many out there.
Yes, no, definitely. So, Peter, you always say we're not in the training business, we're in the learning business. What do you mean?
So, for me, learning training is really when you send somebody to a course, either a 1-day or a 5-day course. So it's got a fixed start date. It starts at 9 o'clock, it ends at 4 o'clock, and then there's no further contact with an individual. Learning is really that part where you become part of that individual's growth. So if we make that practical, and let's use, we spoke about AI, let's use AI as an example. If we want to say that we're in the business of helping organizations to grow skills in the AI side, then it really implies that what does that all encompasses? It's content, it's the fact that we've got subject matter experts that can support you, and Tepiso, you will also agree, is that assessment component or skills benchmarking part of this journey is vitally important. don't know if you want to,
Yes.
to add in there.
So it's very essential. We have realized that, people think it's about pass and fail.
Yes.
It's not about pass and fail. It's about the skill. It's about knowledge. It's about confidence when you do assessment. I can get questions, I asked a long exam and I can get it a pass mark of an 80 by just guessing. That doesn't mean that I've absorbed the information. That doesn't mean that I'm skillable to be able to do the work. So you will need to, I think, the learning industry has shifted, and the focus, it's more about, giving confidence in learning, ensuring that people understand that, learning is supported in a very good way, especially when it comes to skills benchmarking.
Yeah.
Students wants to know, how am I doing versus the other students as well. That's where the analytics part of assessment comes in. So assessing and reassessing the skills in order to close those knowledge gaps.
Yeah.
If I can just add to that
Yeah.
part, so assessment for us and the way that we see that as part of learning is
Sorry, and you're not referring only to universities, right?
No,
No.
we are talking
The
general
whole
with corporate.
population.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
what does it matter if one person acquires knowledge faster than another person?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that the slower person will never get there.
Yeah.
So when we look at what Chipiso talks about from an assessment perspective, is really want to determine what are the gaps still.
Yeah.
You've now been on a learning interaction. Now let's sit back and let's see where there are gaps.
Yeah.
And then let's see how we can actually really make sure that we overcome those hurdles. And we see that so often that the people on a well-designed learning journey, the guys that are maybe the slowest in inverted commas initially becomes the most successful
Yes.
people at the end of a program. So to really summarize your question
It's
is
like
learning.
life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So learning is really taking all of these different components, content, the assessments, the facilitators, etc., and combining them and providing that experience versus a person standing in front of you and say, everybody now click on cell A1, click and make it yellow. There's no context to it.
Yeah.
And not excluding the learners with disabilities,
Yes.
because AI has improved the way that assessments are being done to accommodate learners with disabilities, like with read to text and text to speech. So where the learners can actually speak to the physical machine. So I think he touched on Peter has touched on a very important one in terms of closing that knowledge gap and not leaving out the next person as well.
And so that relates to job roles,
It-
am I correct? So it's not only about, in my time we had a syllabus, and then you write your exam and then you pass and then you go to work. So in this case, how relevant is it for somebody who's on the job, just making sure, so is it endorsing the fact that you are productive, you know what you're doing, you're not wasting time and you're not wasting your employer's time and so on?
Yeah, so people talk about two specific components in regard to this. The one is personal productivity,
Yeah.
and then ultimately the other one is the enterprise performance part.
Yes.
So personal productivity, if we take it back to the AI, can be about, I can use a very good prompt, or I can actually ask a co-pilot to rewrite an email for me. But the key question is always does that tie back to enterprise productivity? And so that is a crucial part, and that brings you back to the point about the relevancy and the job role component, because learning has to be relevant. People don't want to sit in a room and listen to, okay, AI can do X, Y, Z, but it's really what can it do specifically for me as an individual. And then when Lemoore will also attest to that is what is that support mechanism then when I say it's got to be applicable to my role?
Yeah, and I think maybe to come back to the question that you had around training and learning.
Yes.
The way I see it is training comes across as more compliance.
Yeah.
And if you look at learning, we talk about empowering people.
Sure.
And I think when we are in this age of AI, especially, it's going to become even more important for us to empower people with the right skills, the knowledge, and even the habits that they need, so that we can make sure that they thrive. So I think I just wanted to bring that point home again,
Yes.
that, you know, when you think about learning, it should be centered around the people.
Yeah.
Because what we do as organizations a lot of the time is, and we see it with some of the customers that we work with, is we have this top-down approach to learning where we say, okay guys, this is what we think you need to do, but it's not necessarily relevant to people's day-to-day. And it comes back to, you know, the point that Peter is mentioning around relevancy. And if I can just nerd out a bit more, we actually did a survey with one of the biggest telecommunication organizations last year, where we wanted to ask them what were some of the biggest frustrations that you have when it comes to learning.
Yeah.
And the one that came up a lot was the relevance of learning. What people are saying is, it's fine that you're giving us all of this learning, but it's not necessarily relevant to me and my day-to-day.
Yes.
And what that really means is, when we're rolling out content, what you see is that a lot of the time it's too generic.
Yeah.
We use examples that might be from someone else's world, and it's not connected to real work. So what we need to do really is understand the people we're creating learning for, and then make sure it's relevant to actually help them on their day-to-day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's very profound, especially because I think that is also aligned to the budget. If you're busy pumping learning to somebody and they're not interested, it's not relevant, it's like, what are you doing? You know, you're not investing in anything. But how did you then deal with that? How do you deal with making sure that it's relevant for the organization and the people? Because I'm sure also buy-in comes in, where if they are interested, they'll do it without being pushed, coerced, forced, punished, you know, all sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where a lot of consulting with the customer has to happen upfront, because as much as we've been in a learning space, combined probably about more than 50 years, we don't know the world that our customers, their specific business component, and one has got to spend the time understanding what a finance clerk in a retail organization, for example, is doing versus a finance clerk at a financial institution. And then you also got to understand what is their technology roadmap.
Yeah.
So a lot of that pre-consulting before one comes up with a learning solution has to happen, and that I think also gets back to the training versus learning. In a training scenario, you will say to a customer, there's a course, there's a date, see if you can book people on that.
Yeah.
With learning, it's really unpacking those requirements, but then also to look already at what is the end-to-end process, is when will assessments take place, what will be the support after the initial facilitator-based component comes into play. But yeah, the consulting up front is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I can imagine. So before we get into the other parts, you know, because I'm interested to understand, you know, you already touched on the frustration of the people that, you know, are supposed to consume this content. But I wanted you, Lomo, to just touch on, I don't want to assume that people understand the content development part of the business. What do you do? When you come here, you sit on your desk. What's the first thing you do?
Okay, so I think there might be a bit of a misconception between content development that we see in social media.
Yes.
Of course, you know, we see the rise of influencers, but I think really that does contribute to what we do on a daily. So it would be really centered around the design and the development of the actual courseware that people consume.
Okay.
So when we talk about learning, there's a content portion that supports that learning. And this can be in different formats. It can be your online courses that you take. It can be, for example, what we're doing here, the podcast type of learning. It can be videos. So it can take different forms. So when we talk about content development, it's really that instructional design element. Like Peter has mentioned it, we get the requirement. After we get the requirement, we have a team of instructional designers, you know, and often of the time we get the credit for what they do, but they are the team that actually sits down and develops the content. And I think we've spoken about a frustration of relevancy, where organizations are getting this from, you know, from my perspective is, and what we're seeing is, Now, this courseware design that we talk about is often done by trainers
Yes.
or it's done by subject matter experts. But trainers and subject matter experts don't necessarily have the skills to actually design a course.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot that goes into it besides the subject matter.
Yeah.
So like a subject matter expert would suffer from what they call subject matter blindness. So they're so in tune with the content that they don't consider how people are going to consume that content.
Yes.
And that's really where our team comes in. We look at what the requirement is, we look at the content, and then we design that learning so that it is engaging for people.
Yeah.
You know, you asked how do people buy into content? It's also from those instructional designers' perspective, how do we make it engaging, you know, for people to want to consume that
So
content?
it must be learnable.
Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing you say is that basically you have the learning. You guys are learning experts. What you do is to make sure that people learn and learn successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, very very interesting.
But also to add to what Lumur is saying is, I think we all tend to get stuck into what happened when we were at school.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was you had a teacher that shouted at you or screamed at you, do the X, Y, Z. So learning has to be fun as well.
It's clear that you learned in the 1980s.
So whilst we develop a good quality product, it's got to be engaging.
Yeah.
It's got to be fun. It's got to be
Yes.
something that I, as a participant, actually want to tomorrow
Yes.
do again. Different course, maybe even repeat the same course.
Yeah.
But if you don't bring that fun element in, then you're preventing people's ability to acquire
Yeah.
knowledge and skills.
So in that space, you don't deal with specific sectors, right? The content is content, and sort of content is content, and you can do that in any sector. So can you go and do something in aviation, for instance?
Yeah.
So you take their content, you turn it into learnable content, and you teach them.
Yeah.
Not teach. Peter doesn't like
Yeah.
training. Thing is, you make them learn.
Yeah, I think actually an interesting point that we heard from one of our organizations, they labeled what we do actually perfectly.
Yeah.
They said we are more of content curators,
Yes.
you know. So your organization will have their expertise, their IP, and then what we do from a learning perspective or instructional design perspective is take that content and then curate it.
Yeah.
Because on the back end, instructional designers understand a lot more.
Yeah.
Like for example, there are different adult learning principles. You know,
Yeah.
adults learn better, and one of the principles is relevance, and we keep talking about that. So adults learn when they're motivated and they know that their training material is actually connected to me personally or professionally.
Yeah.
So if it's relevant for me and my job role, then I'm more likely to want to consume that content.
Yeah.
So I think a nice way to put that is we can definitely curate that content for different industries.
Yeah.
But we do leverage in that requirements gathering process a lot of the experts, the SMEs, the facilitators, and existing content that organizations might have.
Yeah, and maybe if also a decision maker is watching and listening, I think what you guys do is also assist organizations like what you said around enterprise goals, right? Just making sure that people learn and they are able to execute their duties and become productive, increase revenue, increase all of those things. That's what you guys do. And so it's not learning for the sake of learning and the sake of a budget and the sake of ticking a box and submitting a training plan. That's not the issue. The issue is we also want organizations to make money and make sure that all their people that are on the ground know what they do, what they are doing, and do it in the shortest possible time, but also delivering quality work. That's what we do, and hoping you'll be able to assist many others. You already are assisting a number of enterprises and corporates, but yeah, definitely, especially these organizations that are big, that have branches all over the country. You want to standardize and make sure that what happens in Centurion branch is exactly what happens in Senton branch, in Devon branch. All of that is important. When there are people on the ground understand content exactly the same way.
And just to come in there, Tebogo, is that the content is not only or learning about, we're gonna just tick the box. It's also about competition. Employees like competing against each other. If you touched a very important point, having branches everywhere. So measurements can be done from a reporting and analytics perspective in terms of the different branches. So we can say Cape Town is like, we roll out a course and Cape Town is competing with Johannesburg. The users that finish it first will get a prize. Organization, that's where the gamification element that Peter spoke about comes in, is that it's gamified learning. We are learning, but in a way that is not boring.
Yes.
In an old way, but then we are learning in a new way whereby competition is there. I want to be top on the leaderboard. We have leaderboards that we track learning on.
Yeah.
And in the leaderboard, when you track learning, we can see Debogo is slow, or the Cape Town branch, they are slow in doing their course. Let's see how we can motivate them to actually have fun and do this learning.
Where Peter was coming, that's slow Cape Town.
Yes. Centurion is the head office, so we're sitting here
and we're fast.
We are fast.
I think the other part that also comes into play here is when you create a learning environment, is organizations need to understand that they've also got a very important role.
Yes.
And I want to go back to AI as an example. Is you're talking about companies must be competitive.
Yeah.
It's good to spend money on your staff and you provide different learning opportunities and their skill can grow. But if you as an organization are not growing, then you have to ask yourself, is my spend correctly?
Yeah.
So when it comes to AI, for example, is we see that companies would say, can you do X, Y, Z for us?
Yeah.
But it's actually also the top structure in that organization that's got to give their staff members this two very vital points of information is why.
Yeah.
Why did we decide as a retailer, as a financial company on AI, and what is that going to mean for us?
Yeah.
And that's a message that's got to come from the client. And then the second part is, you as our people, you are incredibly important to us and we are taking you on the journey. And then the content development side, the assessment component, etc., doesn't seem as though it's sitting in isolation.
Yes.
It forms part of the bigger picture.
It's part of the strategy. Oh, great. I think we're gonna take a short break, but it's very interesting, and I think when we come back, let's talk about, I'm interested to know really the frustrations, but also let's touch on AI and go deeper, and you tell us what you're seeing. We're very interested to hear that. And as we close, let's do that, and we'll come back after a few minutes. Thank you.
Every career has a starting point. Every business has a room to grow. At Netcampus, we unlock potential by empowering people with skills to thrive, boosting productivity, and building confidence to succeed in a tech-driven future. For over 20 years, we've been leading ICT training across South Africa and beyond. Our mission: to make technology skills accessible, practical, and life-changing, from Microsoft and cloud computing to cybersecurity and business analysis. We offer tailored solutions for individuals, businesses, and government, with international accreditations, exam centers, and innovative learning methods. We ensure you stay ahead in a fast-changing digital world. At Netcampus, we believe in empowerment through education. We are passionate about breaking barriers, driving transformation, and creating opportunities for growth. Unlock your potential. Netcampus. We rise by lifting others.
Welcome back. We are recording our third episode of the technology podcast, Netcampus Fireside Chat. When we took a break, we were talking about frustrations that everybody or all the stakeholders are experiencing when it comes to learning. And I'm sure either the management is experiencing some challenges, employees are also frustrated here. What's going on? Peter, do you want to take a step at that?
Yeah, I think one is going to most certainly make sure that you touch an organization across all the levels as well. So if we go back to AI as an example and maybe make it practical with a specific scenario, in organizations you're faced with different generations. So your different generations sit with different expertise levels as well. and willingness to acquire new knowledge. I mean, all the young people are constantly on their phone doing research. So if you make AI applicable to organization, it's really, are you touching the senior team members? Even at the exco level, are they exposed to the value? Now that's not really a training in inverted commas session. That is an informative session that also discusses how it's relevant to a specific organization, to a specific industry rather. And then the part about the frustration is, and we've used this word so often, is for the rest of the staff members, I think there are probably two main frustrations. The one is relevancy of the learning component, and then the other part is we don't want to be thrown just with content. We actually also need a personal interaction with a real human being that I can say, I'm really worried about AI and will AI take my job or not. And then if you look at the learning and development in an organization, their frustration is, are we measuring?
Yes.
So we're now spending 2 million rand, 3 million rand on a program, but are we getting somewhere in an organization? And then just the last point is, so when a learning organization interacts with the client and that interaction, the traditional learning interaction ends, what then? Now people go back to their desks. So there might be various frustration levels actually in an organization. So yeah, maybe Lemoore, if you want to touch this on the one part, and that is the frustration when people go back to the office.
Yeah, maybe also as you do that, touch on the fact that AI is also putting a spanner in this wheel, and it's confusing everything, you know.
Yeah, I think earlier, Deborah, when you asked about just our journey in the learning space, what we've seen back then and what we see now, I touched a bit on it that, learning back then used to be very manual intensive. And the big challenge there was that Peter mentioned, a lot of that learning happened outside the actual work.
Yes.
So I would have to go and attend a class. When I'm done with that week, I come back and then I need to now continue doing my work. And I might have forgotten half of what happened in the classroom. Or I'll need to raise another support ticket. And I say, hey, IT, can you please help me? I'm struggling with this again. Or I have to quickly nudge Tepiso and say, my friend, can you help me sort this out? And I think where that shift really is happening is, how do we take that learning now and bring it into the flow of work?
Yeah.
So if we talk about in the flow of work, that simply means learning while you're doing your work. I don't have to leave my desk. I can open up my laptop and get access to that help that I need in the moment where I need it. And that's where AI comes in. Organizations are building now these AI agents that they're feeding with all of their intellectual property. They're putting all the processes in there.
So I just want to know, so is it a person? This
No.
AI agent is not a human being.
No, it's not it's not a physical human being.
Oh, okay.
But if you've seen what ChatGPT does,
Okay.
it uses a similar model. Whether you create an AI agent, you feed it all of the information that's relevant to, let's say, for example, Netcampus.
Okay.
All our processes, all of our ways of working, all of our learning. And what AI then does is, when I come, I no longer need to leave and search for information.
Okay.
I go to our AI agent because it understands our workflow. It can give me the relevant information in the moment when I need it. And I think that's where that big frustration now is being addressed, that I don't have to go outside of any platform, my office. I get to learn while I'm working. And you've spoken about what's in it for organizations. That's exactly it. Your performance increases because you don't need people walking around trying to find what the answers are. You've now given them access to all of that when they need it. And it also happens with AI now in a matter of seconds. We know how quickly we can prompt a co-pilot and get your answer.
So this prompting again is a word that is used very often these days. So when you feed this agent information, is that the prompting? Is that what you call prompting, or what's prompting?
Okay, so the prompting part, if I put it simply, is the asking the question. So if me as Lemoore now, I'm an employee and I need to find out, I forgot what our policy is on poppy. I can go and say, is it allowed for me to send this information with our customers. So that's a prompt. I'm now feeding the AI agent a question or the information that I need, and then it returns results for me. So you see, again, that happens right while I'm in the flow of work. I get to prompt or ask the AI for the information that I need.
And Tebogo Lamo touched on a very important part. If we look at organizations, we have engaged with many organizations. They have multiple of tools that they buy, meaning they buy learner management system, they buy Oracle system, is either the payroll system, but the users don't know how to use it. You know, we go to training. Attention span for people are too short these days. As we said, we spend most of our time on our phones and, you know, relying on AI heavily to just ask the questions. So now what the AI agent will do will actually guide the person to say, this is how you use the platform. This is how you generate a payslip for an employee. This is the details that you need to fill it in. If it does, like, you know, if I skip a step, it will say, it will prompt me and say, you have skipped a step, go back and fill up that step. So it's actually, you are actually doing fluent work and neat work within a system instead of relying on someone and we say, we are waiting for this person to come and show us how to actually process. The agent will show you how to process.
So this is what you guys do?
Yes.
Oh.
And that again is role based.
Yeah.
It depends on your role in an organization. It will provide you with the feedback. It won't provide you with feedback about something that you cannot do
Yes.
because of your role. So that's the other beauty. It's also looking again at your role and what is relevant to your specific role.
Sure. So why are people not doing this? They don't know, or they don't have a budget. Is it expensive? Let's start there. No? How, or rather, so, and of course, money is relative, but what is the value? Maybe, you know, compared to the output and the results that you're gonna get out of this thing. Because I don't know, but a lot of organizations that I've come across don't necessarily do this.
Yeah, I think there's this component where people say, because there's a technology part to this, that it is going to be significantly expensive. But what is the alternative? The alternative is that you would create a paper manual. Here's your paper manual. And by the way, the moment you've created this paper manual, it's in all probability outdated already. And then you've got to distribute that. Then you've got to bring people to your offices. You've got to give them lunch and tea and coffee and water and all of those components. And I think companies don't often add all of those costs together to see what traditional learning costs.
Yeah.
And then should the software have an update or a change. But I was saying to the guys the other day, I came to the office and I opened Teams and I wanted to find a specific file that we were working on. And suddenly there was not a file button anymore. It's now called Shared. Now, for you as an employee, you go, I need my file button. Now you don't have to worry, because if that employee arrives at the office at 5 o'clock in the morning and there's no person to help them, they literally just ask the agent, what happened to my file button? And it's there. So if you add all of those components together, it is extremely cost effective. And then I think sometimes, this might sound like an advert, but during COVID, just as an example, not that we want to really go back to COVID, is there was a customer that we engaged with at a point in time, and there was no time to train people because of all of the problem. It was actually in the
shutdown
in a medical industry. So we could really quickly provide them with these sorts of help, so that the person could sit down and say, how do I register a patient? Without knowing actually what the process is, and all of the guides, all of the help was available for them at that point in time.
No, interesting, and so it's that thing that you have to have plan B, plan C, because of any eventuality. You never know. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes somebody can't come to work, and so on. How do you quickly close that gap? And it does sound like you're able to do that. I want us to move on and talk about the future, right? What are you seeing now? It's 2026, and some of us are still polluted by classroom and the teacher in front or the trainer and having lunch. We love our lunch. And so on and so on. But you know, we are also seeing that in the learning space, you know, you can, there's a lot of hybrid models. You don't have to sit in one space. You can also learn from somebody in India while you're sitting here and so on. I'm interested to know what you are seeing right now, but also future. You know, what are you predicting? You know.
Sure, I'll take that one. And I think I won't give away my age.
Yes.
But what we are seeing that the way people consume content on a daily has changed. You know, from the rise of, you get your YouTube shorts, where people are now consuming content in these nuggets.
Yes.
So if I need something quick, I go to YouTube and I say, hey, where can I find that shared button? And then there's already someone that created a 10-second clip that says, hey, don't worry, you're not the only one. Click here, click there, and you find it. We also have the conversational style of learning, where people go to podcasts on experts. I mean, us as a team, we look at the Josh Person podcast, and we go there for insights.
Yes.
So the way people are consuming content and learning has changed. And what I think learning and development needs to do is catch up. We can't be doing content in the same ways like we were talking about the PDFs or another PowerPoint presentation. We need to meet people where they are. So if we're looking at that, what I see as a trend really is microlearning. So of course microlearning has been around.
What is microlearning?
Microlearning is, simply put, is learning in bite size.
Okay.
So we're not talking about longer form content. We're talking about like those YouTube shorts where we narrow that down into a consumable piece of content that I can have now. So that has been around, but you see it now becoming even more and more. If you look at TikToks, if you look at YouTube, if you look at LinkedIn, even you get a professional breaking down a concept in under 5 minutes. So microlearning has been there, but what I see in the shift is it will now start to be not a standalone, but it will be tied to everyday work. Like we keep talking about in the flow of work. When we use these AI agents, we'll be able to give them that micro-learning when they ask the question and when they need it. So for me, a trend that I see, micro-learning will definitely blow up. And because we are in the attention economy, I don't know, all of these coaches online talk about the attention economy. And it's about who can grab people's attention. And businesses get this well because their marketing efforts are already short bite-sized. I know I need to get the guy's attention and address his problem and then give him a solution. So us as learning as well, we need to think about when we create content, are we actually grabbing people's attention? Do they want to consume this? Or are they simply going to click through everything you've created? They click through and then guess their way through an assessment at the end. So that's just one trend that I see.
And to just add on to what Lamo said, microlearning, when it's reinforced into employees, you will see that the check-ins that are there, it changes the behavioral changes in the organization. And you'll see that, people will start consuming more because if you look at the way, if you give me 1 hour content now, I still need to do my work. So I won't be able to finish it up. I'll just do a bit. And then when I come back, I'm like, okay, now I need to start all over. I don't want to start over. So when you learn in bits, it's like 5 minutes bits. You learn something, it grabs your attention, it actually stays in your mind. Then you go and consume other things, or you go and do your work, you're back to your work basis, and then you come back and consume another bit. So let's just say we're talking about a Netcampus policy. And we want employees to know about the policy. If you give them that document, the PDF document, we're going to end up with employees that doesn't know about the policies within Netcampus. But if it's given into a micro-learning way with the short bit and pieces, and also what we love is that the images that are created, the videos that are created, because we're learning in a different style, we're no longer learning in like a reading format. So though we have people that will read in a reading format, or people, listen up. But we have like younger generations that would like to learn with videos, we're learning with like puzzles, you know, if you feed up a puzzle into this, let's just say we say the dress code for Netcampus, it's a white shirt and a black trouser. Then, you know, we just put it there and it's like a gamified one.
Yes.
A person will remember that this is how I need to dress up because
so it's
gamified.
more like you do that with induction, you do that with how do you do your job right now. But just tell me, how does that align with, I'm just thinking, the certifications, especially if you're talking about those assessments. Is there a clash there? Because then on the other side of the business, we do international certifications and exams. On this side, you know, I think it's, you know, it's relevant, you do the work now, but there isn't really that certification path where you're going to be checked if you write an exam and you pass and so on.
There is. I will take that one. There is, because there
Yeah.
is a difference. You have a certificate of competency,
Okay.
and you have a certificate of completion. Meaning you have
perfect.
completion. You have completed a certain task that you were given. So during those micro-learning content, you also get what we call the assessment part. So we assess your knowledge based on what you have already consumed from that content.
Yeah.
And right at the end, if you get all the answers right, like sometimes we'll say 3 attempt,
Yeah.
or we'll say 2 attempt. What is an attempt? It's like the tries.
Yes.
So you can try it 3 times, and then if you pass it, you get your certificate. If you do not pass it, we use AI again. We recommend that you go back into learning so that you can understand the gaps that are there, and so that it can be addressed by the micro-learning content before you go and reconsume again. Sometimes we'll say retake, it takes about 7 days, because we want to give a person back to go and study that specific content
Yes.
before we actually move on and do a re-attempt of the assessment.
Interesting. And is that what you use, those, I don't know what you call them, but even in universities and stuff, they use that sometimes?
Correct. They
Yeah.
use that. We call it the online assessments.
Yes.
And we actually, you know, rely more on AI. But again, we must remember that AI supports personalization, but we take seriously the governance of data and validation is very essential. So we take it very seriously. Like you'll find out that, you know, a university will say, but, you know, many students are using AI to actually write their assessment or assignments. You know, how do we actually close that gap?
Yeah.
Then, you know, we have to put safety measurement, which is the tools that we put in to guard against that, so that, you know, a person will be able to produce real work again, but, you know, it's actually their own work. It's not AI generated work. So we have applications that checks that. Is it your own work? If it's not your own work, then it will give it like 20% is your work, but then 80% is AI. So it will measure against that.
Wow, scary.
I think to add to this part is, to go back to your point about the micro-learning as well as the assessment part is, for us, and Bogi, you raised the point about international certification and exam centers, is we're most certainly not saying that what we do replace this.
Yes.
Because there's a place for a person with international exam, or even you completing at the end of the year at university certain subject and exams that provide you with a pass and fail component. What we are saying is that process of learning has actually got to make sure that these assessments happen at regular basis, because that provides your learner the opportunity to say, I'm actually comfortable with 5 out of the 7 micro-learning bits.
Yeah.
And then referring him back to do the other 2, so that you over time build that competency within the individual. And I think to the last part maybe on that is as well, is to say organizations need to think about, I did a BSc in mathematics how many years ago? If you ask me now to prove the Chinese remainder theorem, I'm going to go, I don't even know where to start. So if you need to look at the certification that we refer to as can be badges, etc.
Yes.
How do you want to set that expiry date? Because we do live in a time where technology changes so much. So the way that you're doing things and what you need to know has got to stay relevant. So does that badge, so my BSc degree will in all probability never expire, but these badges will put it as an expiry date on that, and not to punish staff members, but to say Now let's do a quick retake.
Yeah.
And then through microlearning, these different components have been added. Let's bring that into the learning ecosystem for you.
Yeah, what I'm getting is that, I mean, in terms of what you do, is also guide, but also, you know, add resources where necessary. And this could be the agents you're talking about, or it could be physical people, it could be consultants, but just to make sure that your strategy around learning is well-rounded and can be executed, and it you know, it meets the desired outcome that you want. Yeah, very interesting. What I also wanted you to advise us on, and we've been focusing a lot on organizations. As a person, and maybe you have touched on it, the fact that they will be doing microlearning, even for themselves. I'm sure learning is not only about your job, it's also for you. I'm interested in playing a piano at some point. You know, it's something that I can do, right? Yeah. So I'm just thinking, as an individual, how do you know, make sure that you meet your goals? And I'm sure that's exactly what you would do. Set up a plan for yourself and have these things and learn online. If it becomes more complicated, then you go to the experts and assist. What I wanted to ask you though is also our trainers, right? They are experts on in their own right. Do they have a role here? And how do they, especially in the technology space, how do you put them in this whole situation?
I think there's probably a misconception that facilitators or trainers will just disappear. We will not need them anymore.
Yeah.
And nothing can be further off from the truth. Because even if you create a blended learning environment where a person say, well, the way that we see it, and we use a very old model, it was actually created in the 1970s already by a gentleman, Neil Burge. And it talks about how do you get people from a level of unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. Now, in that is you typically need a facilitator, and the facilitator is a special individual. They've got the technical knowledge that a technical expert out there will have, but they also understand how the human brain works and how you actually got to take the content that you want to cover and break that down into simplistic examples of real world to open a door for somebody. So that there's a part where they need initially to play to say, when you join us on this program, this is what you will be able to do. We call it trigger events in our world, but it really just to say, you will be able to do the following. And when I say you, I mean everybody. The second part is when you then start going to the content component and you say, how do we now add content to that, is you really want to, after about every 4 hours of online content, you want to pause and say, we look at the results that the assessment part provides, and then we set up a session with a subject matter expert or a facilitator, and that facilitator adds the human element. Because doesn't matter what we say, we're still all social creatures. We want to interact with a real person, and your online content can't provide empathy. So if you are stuck on a specific part, it's often that you need just about 2 words from a subject matter expert, and you're over that hurdle, and you can run again. So the facilitator, their role will change. Their role will in all probability become part of designing the journey, because you've got the advantage of the technical expertise, but you've also got the advantage of understanding learning. And then through the program, there will be various touch points where they will add that real world conversation like we're having right now, where we also can disagree from one another on a specific viewpoint. So for me, the role of a facilitator is actually going to become much more important. And in AI terms, there's actually even an acronym for that. It's called AI plus X. And the X stands for the institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's what a facilitator's got. They maybe not institutional to a retail or a finance company, but they surely have got the learning experience
I
and
love
the learning
that.
knowledge.
Yeah. And
I
Peter,
love that, yeah.
maybe if I can add on to that, you know, we spoke about the trends.
Yes.
One of the trends as well is that organizations will start to move to using a multimodal approach to learning. So one of the big frustrations as well is that often organizations use this one-size-fits-all approach.
Yes.
And I mean, even us sitting in this room, we can agree that we all have different learning preferences,
Yes.
right? And we won't give our age away. Some might prefer to read, some might prefer
Paper.
the paper,
The
yeah,
book and the pen.
and versus the, you know,
Versus the iPad.
versus the, yeah. So organizations will start to use more of that multimodal approach because classroom-based training alone is not easy to scale.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, your digital programs or digital content is not as engaging because sometimes people still need that driver for that real performance. Because I can ask the question on the spot, I can challenge, you know, what has been taught to me, I can reflect on it, I can apply. So maybe just tying those two together, that yes, one of the trends will be a multimodal approach, and yes, there of course will still be that need for combining facilitator-based training now with more of these digital programs.
Yeah.
But you just, sorry, you raised such an important point is a facilitator can create that difference in opinion.
Yes.
And that's actually, that challenge is so important as part of learning.
Yeah.
Because you sometimes, even as a facilitator, want to say something that's just a lot of nonsense. And the reason for that is you want to get people to respond.
Yeah.
And you want to say to them is, I disagree with you. And here is my reason why I disagree. Because that will lead to organizational benefit as well. Because combined, people's thoughts will always be better than just one person sitting and saying, yeah, I've got the knowledge on my own.
Yeah.
And we have seen it with our trainers. They use like discussion forums.
Yes.
So remember, students, some of them in class, they are shy to just ask a question or if they don't understand. But it goes back to our facilitators, they are becoming subject matter expert.
Yes.
So learners will pose a question in a discussion forum. It will then all the other learners, it will be encouraging them to respond to that question. Then it becomes a discussion. Then, you know, the facilitator can already see where are the knowledge gaps.
Yes.
How do I address those knowledge gaps? So hence we say, you know, technology is there, but then you need to actually embrace it and use it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like that whole issue of facilitators taking a different role, being like mentors, guiding people, almost inspiring them. Because also what I've seen as a trend is with this microlearning, people think I'll just go on YouTube, learn, and then I'm an expert. It doesn't work like that, especially for global OEMs who want also you to be certified in those. It's going to be very difficult for you to certify, you know, using only that mode, or you like multimodal. So it's a mode, right?
It's one of them, yeah.
It's a mode.
Yeah, so it's going to be very difficult, and so more and more, even though it's not the traditional way of delivering the lesson over 5 days, but at some point you still need an intervention of somebody who knows better than you, who can assist you, who can guide you of the areas that might be a problem in you getting to certify yourself and improve in your journey of, well, in your career, basically. So I'm comforted the fact that our facilitators will still have jobs. I thought they're going to be replaced by agents.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a lot of research has been done on the concept of capability academies, or the ability to build capabilities, and that does not exclude even a standard 5-day course.
Yes.
Because it's really dependent on what is that content that you want to cover.
Yes.
And that, I mean, both of you alluded to that. That's why we say there's not a one-fit-all approach that one can have.
Yeah. No, thank you. This is very interesting for me. But, you know, is there anything that you think in the future, are we going to get robots coming to train us or make us learn? What are you seeing?
I think an exciting one for me, and it's already happening, is the use of AI characters.
Yes.
And what organizations are doing is using these AI agents to create these talking head type of explainer videos. And it's even going to the point now where we can record one of our facilitators only for 3 minutes, and we can use them again without them physically being in the room. So we can now again prompt or ask AI to say, please can you create a video on Poppy? It should just be a short introduction. And then we use the face and the voice of the facilitator that we've created previously.
Wow.
So I think that for me is something exciting that is already starting to unfold.
Great. Lovely.
So not a robot,
Yeah.
but we are
What is
simulating a
those
robot.
things? Holograms? Or what is it?
It's an actual recording of a person
Yeah.
that they use, and then they lip sync what that person would say in.
Yes.
So it reads your movement, how we're speaking now, your tone, how you pronounce words, and then it stores that in its memory. And the next time you say, hey, can you say, give a greeting to Peter there in Cape Town? Then we can use that AI character.
Lovely. No, we're going there. Definitely. In conclusion,
I will say that, the future is to adopt learning.
yes.
Learning needs to be adopted. We have a short, skills out there when it comes to learning. So it will need to be adopted, especially for the young people out there. I will encourage them that, learn more, spend time in, absorbing all the information that you can get. Do not limit yourself when it comes to learning.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that, assessments are going to shift. Everyone will be doing assessments from home. And, the AI agent will be watching you, will be able to pause it for you instead of an invigilator pausing it as well.
Yeah.
But upskill, reskill.
Absolutely. Definitely. And Mr. Nell?
Yeah, I think so my parting words is, from when you look at learning, is one is just got to be careful is that technology doesn't solve learning problems on its own. Don't forget the people element in there. Don't forget that all of your staff members, and that's not just age-wise, by the way, but that your staff members have got different learning styles. And it's time for us as employers also to say, we cannot afford to leave any of our staff members, white-collar workers, blue-collar workers, etc., behind.
Yeah.
And we can reach that goal if we take all of the elements that we spoke about today and we combine that into a real learning environment within our companies.
Yeah. No, that's great. I've been so inspired. I think the passion for learning is definitely there, and I do know that when people are watching, there's a lot to learn. I've also learned a lot. I didn't know that. I thought an agent is a person.
I think that if I can maybe just say something, we started off with just talking about youngsters, right?
Yeah.
And the journey. So maybe just one thing I would say to people is, like, AI is here, it's inevitable, and it's going to disrupt even more than we can imagine. And with that, it's going to take up a lot of the transactional jobs.
Yeah.
So the day-to-day activities that people do is going to be, taken up. So what I want people to think about is, how do you add value on a different level?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, the day-to-day tasks are going to be taken up.
Yeah.
And I'll do it quickly. I learned something from an online coach. He says there's 4 levels to value that you can add. The first one is transactional, of course, the day-to-day task. Then you get the people that manage those, that do the day-to-day task. The third level of value is, are you able to communicate strategies, vision to inspire people?
Yeah.
Then the fourth level is imagination.
Yeah.
The people who can think about innovative ideas. How are we going to shift things within the organizations? And I want to encourage people to start thinking on those 2 levels at the top.
Yeah.
How do you become better at communicating? How do you become better at thinking differently? And now you can use AI to give you those solutions that you think about. So just a bit of advice that I wanted to leave with people. Yeah.
No, beautiful. I don't want you to tell them everything, because then they won't be right. But certainly, I think it's very clear you guys have a serious depth of knowledge. And to all the viewers at home, We are here, we are able to share what we shared, but even more, broader and deeper. But please follow us also on all our socials. We are on LinkedIn, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and our YouTube channel is Netcampus Info 2267. You can also email us for all our age group people. I know you love your email address. We are on consulting@netcampus.com or info@netcampus.com. Our website address is www.netcampus.com. So please also don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Please share this informative podcast with your friends, your family, young people, and all the decision makers that make decisions that impact our future workforce. We want to thank you for joining us and see you next time.